there's no doubt, looking at the numbers right now, that later today, I think Joe Biden is going to win Pennsylvania. There's about 160-odd thousand votes still to be counted, and it's skewing at the moment 70% to Biden because of where these votes are being counted and the fact they've been mailed in early. So if you take that percentage, then Biden wins Pennsylvania. He wins the 20 electoral college votes that go with that. That takes him to 273. That makes him the new president. Trump knows these numbers. He knows what's going to happen. And unfortunately, he is regressing into the very worst of his characteristics, which is of being a tremendously bad loser.
I remember when he won unexpectedly in 2016, and we were all waiting for him to say the first things he was going to say. And he did. He was very gracious in that one moment to Hillary Clinton. And I thought he's going to follow the kind of protocols here. But obviously at this point, he feels he can't.
Well, he might be fighting for his political life right now. He's a street fighter, Trump. Always has been, always will be. And maybe he's giving it everything he's got to try and muddy the waters, buy himself time, try some recounts, whatever he can throw at this to try and save himself. But there's no doubt there's not been mass fraud in the way that he describes. He's not had the election stolen from him. He's actually got a lot closer to being re-elected than many people thought he would. And the truth is he's going to lose fair and square to Joe Biden, and he should just accept it. And I hope, having known him a long time, I've seen many sides of Donald Trump. I've seen the combative guy that we saw last night. I've seen the guy who shoots on the hip and spray guns anyone who gets in his way. But I've also seen, behind the scenes in particular, a very loyal guy who can actually be a nice bloke. And he can show the kind of decency that people have been begging him to show. So although this sounds unlikely to those who only ever see the sound bites about him being all bestial, I think he has it in him to pivot once he knows it's all over to being gracious. The question is, will he do it? And I would urge him, as someone who's been a long-time friend of Trump's, to be that guy, to be in that moment. I think it would go a long way to mitigating some of the bile that's going to pour on his head if in the moment of loss he can just show some dignity. But I probably wouldn't hold my breath.
I was trying to find some concession speeches last night, just looking them up, and I came upon this one I'm about to play, Piers, just a minute of it, really. John McCain for the Republicans was up against Barack Obama, who beat him fair and square. His followers didn't like it. You can hear him. He's very uneasy because when he mentions Obama's name, they start booing. But my goodness, these are gracious words.
A little while ago, I had the honor of calling Senator Barack Obama to congratulate him, to congratulate him on being elected the next president of the country that we both love. In a contest as long and difficult as this campaign has been, his success alone commands my respect for his ability and perseverance. But that he managed to do so by inspiring the hopes of so many millions of Americans who had once wrongly believed that they had little at stake or little influence in the election of an American president is something I deeply admire and commend him for achieving. Senator Obama and I have had and argued our differences, and he has prevailed. No doubt many of those differences remain. These are difficult times for our country, and I pledge to him tonight to do all in my power to help him lead us through the many challenges we face.
So you compare that to this.
Good evening. I'd like to provide the American people with an update on our efforts to protect the integrity of our very important 2020 election. If you count the legal votes, I easily win. If you count the illegal votes, they can try to steal the election from us. If you count the votes that came in late, we're looking at them very strongly.
Piers, for Fox News to cut out of his live remarks was extraordinary, wasn't it?
Remarkable. And hearing the words of John McCain there's another great irony developing here, which is that Biden's managed to flip Arizona. That was, of course, Senator McCain's state. They loved him in Arizona. And I knew McCain pretty well. I interviewed him many times when I was over in America. He was a remarkably strong but very decent man, and that's why he was so beloved in his own state. And if Trump loses the election because Arizona turned on him, because of the way that he has trash-talked John McCain, both while he was alive and I think more significantly after his death, that would be truly ironic because I've been disgusted by some of the things that Trump has said about McCain since he died. By all means, go after somebody when they're alive, when they can answer back. And McCain did answer him back. But to do it to a dead man, I think really grated with people in Arizona. And that is one of the very few states that Biden's managed to flip. And I think there's also a lesson for Trump there in just basic common decency when you do take a shellacking like this. When you lose, and when your opponent's got the greatest popular vote that's ever been cast in an American election as Biden, even bigger than when Obama set the world alight, the right thing to do is to step back and say, it's over, and I'm now, for the benefit of American democracy, I'm now going to make a speech about why I love my country, why I love my fellow Americans, and why I will preside in the next couple of months over a peaceful transition of power to the new man, Joe Biden. I really want Trump to do that, because I think if he did, it would go a long way, even with his most ferocious critics. And if he doesn't do that, Jeremy, then frankly, he will really reaffirm to people who hate him why they hate him.
In some really corrupt countries, you get presidents who stay for life because they know the moment, and Mugabe would be an example, the moment they step down, they're going to be jailed. You almost wonder whether that is why Trump is so worried about leaving the White House. Is that a fair reading?
Well, I don't think they're going to jail Trump. If you remember with Richard Nixon, that was all dealt with in a very sort of sophisticated, high-level way where he could have gone to jail, but it was decided it wouldn't be in the interests of America and American democracy to see a president in prison. I don't think they're going to jail Trump. I think they'll make sure that doesn't happen. I think it's more that Trump just hates losing. In all the time I've known him, he's one of the most competitive people I've ever met in my entire life. And on a certain level, that's how he won the White House to start with. He just is an extraordinary political animal who has spent his whole life feuding and arguing and fighting with people as a real estate tycoon. He took the same tactics to the political arena, and he pulled off one of the most shocking victories in the history of American politics. Now he's on the receiving end of a loss. But there's another way of looking at this, which is, yes, if Biden wins, it's a win and he becomes president. But it looks like the Democrats will not regain the Senate. It looks like they've lost seats in the House of Representatives. So their ability to have much power under Biden is extremely limited. And there is a theory in America that if Trump can just calm down and take his loss like a man and bide his time and then carry on exploiting his tremendous star power in America, because he has this remarkable popularity with up to 70 million Americans who voted for him, which, to put it in context, is more than voted for Hillary Clinton last time when she famously won the popular vote. So Trump has a huge core base there of people that like him. If Biden was to have a very difficult presidency, which is quite likely, given the state of America, its economy, the ongoing coronavirus crisis, you could see a situation where Trump, who would only be the same age that Biden is now in 4 years' time, decides to run again. And imagine if he was to pull off the comeback and win re-election then.
Thanks so much. Piers Morgan, broadcaster who knows President Trump and is the author of a book, Wake Up and Why the World Has Gone Nuts, which is out now. So we're talking about the Trump situation and whether actually maybe the fact that the guy is a big winner in life means that he is a very bad loser, and that's what happens. This was his initial reaction.
This is a fraud on the American public. This is an embarrassment to our country.
He's now getting some serious criticism. This was a comment made by Anderson Cooper speaking on CNN, who wouldn't normally go off script like this.
That is the president of the United States. That is the most powerful person in the world. And we see him like an obese turtle on his back, flailing in the hot sun, realizing his time is over. But he just hasn't accepted it, and he wants to take everybody down with him, including this country.
So there have been some bizarre events in the last 24 hours. You will have probably seen that Trump supporters outside, some counts saying stop the count with big chanting, some with guns. outside other counts, saying count the votes, a completely different message. There was then the appearance of a woman called Paula White-Cain yesterday, who is Donald Trump's spiritual advisor and has been his spiritual advisor since he was in business. She was in the White House for a famous laying on of hands with the president, with some other evangelical leaders. She gave an emergency prayer session to win him victory, and here is a brief section.
Strike and strike and strike and strike and strike until you have victory. For every enemy that is aligned against you, let there be that we would strike the ground, for you will give us victory, God. I hear a sound of abundance of rain. I hear a sound of victory. I hear a sound of shouting and singing. I hear a sound of victory. I hear a sound of an abundance of rain. I hear a sound of victory. I hear a sound of an abundance of rain. I hear a sound of victory.
I think that might be the rap version there. I don't know.
The Lord says it is done.
Might not be.
The Lord says it is done. For I hear victory, 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 victory in the corridors of heaven. In the corridors of heaven.
I was thinking someone has done a treatment on that. I've just been told they haven't. That was actually